Let's watch this video.
What if I tell you that there is a law on the Nigeria book right now that allows doctors to take something from your body without your consent? Not in secret, not illegally, under a law passed by the National Assembly. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the National Health Act of 2014, Section 48, 51, 52, and 53 of that act has been challenged in legal submission to the National Assembly. Nigerian lawyers have argued in published legal journals that these sections permit the removal of tissues and organs from a living person without informed consent in the name of emergency treatment, including women's egg cells, provided the payment is deemed reasonable. A former permanent secretary in the Federal Ministry of Health has since come out publicly to say he regrets his role in passing this act, that he dismissed warning about exactly these clauses at the time. In this video you are about to watch, a Nigerian doctor raised the alarm. He alleges that the pressure to pass these laws, the attack on Nigerian doctors who refuse to comply, and investment in private hospitals are connected to these interests that want access to the Nigerian body, our organs, our women's eggs, and our biological materials for a global market. They want to sell human parts, our human parts, then without consent. In case you never hear anything I talk, they want if you go to enter hospital, you wear everything. Doctor tell you say na emergency, go put you for bread, remove your organ. You no go even know. You don't need your consent. You don't need to ask you. Now the kind of law wey they pass for Nigeria, but that 2014. This one not reach to raise alarm, to protest. If you enter any hospital now, you feel enter hospital with two kidney, you come out with one. The doctor in this video alleges, and we are presenting the allegations as such. But the law we are talking about here is not an allegation. That law that allows the doctor to take your organ without your consent is real. Those sections, they are real. They have never been amended since then. Watch this video to the end. Then ask yourself, who benefits from a law that removes consent from the body of the Nigerian poor? And ask why this was not and is not still the biggest conversation in Nigeria right now. One man picking go enter hospital, you could come out with organ missing. Nigeria have legalized organ missing, organ selling in the global market. You know how terrible these people can be. Watch this video to the end. The reason why our farmers were killed is inside this video, because they want you to be eating their GMO food. Tag Apricot doctor to this video. Tag Ketension to this video. All of those doctors you know that are promoting Bill Gates vaccine, tag them to this video. Tag your activists to this video. The lawyers that call themselves activists for Nigeria, tag them to this video. Why is the Nigerian's life now on the global market for sale? And Nigeria created a law that permits doctors to take your organs without you knowing.
Face to Face on USTV Nigeria is our personality interview program. And today we have as our guest academician Philip Njamanze. Philip Njamanze is a prominent Owerri citizen from Owerri Nchise. He is a pro-life champion. He's an author, he's a scientist, he's a researcher, he's a rights activist, and so many other things I cannot mention right now. Prof, you are welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Above all, I'm a doctor.
Oh yeah, sorry, I omitted that. He's a medical practitioner in here in Owerri. Yes. Yeah. And he's today going to talk about an impending danger that is swarming around medical doctors in Nigeria. I think it's better he says it. Please remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube platform. My name again is AFAMH. Doc, I want to ask you, recently you raised an alarm through a letter you transmitted to the National Assembly, the Senate specifically. And in that letter, in fact, you touched the whole world. You copied the UN, you copied ILO, you copied the Conference of Bishops in Africa, Asia, Europe. You touched everywhere in the world. And you talked about a planned genocide of doctors in Nigeria. It's very disturbing. Can you explain or expand on that and let us know what is happening really?
Yes, thank you very much for highlighting this issue. The alarm was raised again because we've talked about this in the past, that when the Global Fund, through the Federal Ministry of Health, started sending people for the third survey of health professionals and private health institutions. They were going around collecting data of location and personnel in all private hospitals in Nigeria. And this data they are actually collecting, that's totally unconstitutional. You cannot collect private data for any purpose, first without seeking the consent of the organizations involved, personal consent of the people involved and explaining to them what this data is for. One, a foreign agent cannot collect data in Nigeria. So the Global Fund, funded by Bill Gates, has no locus to collect any data because health is national security and the data is protected under the 1999 Constitution. So they were not supposed to do that in the first place. Now, let's see the history of this data collection. They had approached the association. Then I was the chairman of the Association of Private Medical Practitioners of Nigeria, Imo State, and we went to a national council, national executive meeting in Aba, and they came there to ask us that they want to collect data from the Global Fund funded by Bill Gates.
Just a minute, sir. Is it the Bill Gates group that approached, or they approached you through an intermediary?
No, the Bill Gates group was funding an NGO who came to make a presentation at the National Executive Council meeting, telling us they want the data to make yellow pages. Yellow pages, and this was for doctors. And what was this? Yellow pages for doctors so that they can have a directory where all the doctors are. Now they were asking for a number of things. They were asking for photographs, they were asking for fingerprints with biometric data, and they were asking for location, how many staff, who are the staff, the telephone numbers and all that. We patiently had them out, and after that, hearing them out, we now told them to excuse us, and they left. And when they left, we now started putting things together. First of all, it would be illegal under medical ethics to have such a directory because called yellow pages, because that would be primarily advertising, which is not allowed ethically. Secondly, they were a foreign agent because they have no right. This is national security. Just like going to the police station, I want to know all the policemen here, all the police stations, where their locations are, their phone numbers, and all that. The Nigerian police will just arrest you for doing that, even asking them. So the same thing is health. Health is under national security and is all protected. If you were to have the information of all the police locations, you can wipe out the police, so they will not get protected. The same thing if you were to know all the locations and the telephone numbers of the doctors and the health personnel, you can also wipe the whole health personnel. And what will happen? So we will not have a health system. Then we have to now depend on a foreign health system, which we do not know the consequences. So when we noticed that this was happening, and coincidentally, we now got a message, an SOS message from Benue, that in Moko, a town in Benue, that a pharmacist, a famous pharmacist, was killed by the doctors. So now, that's what was alleged. And so now, a group of mercenaries of Boko Haram, they call them, we are now seeking all the doctors to kill them. And the doctors had gone into hiding. So we now...
When did this happen?
This happened that was in 2013, I think. And then we said, wait a minute, how come? They said, no, there was a professional field that the doctor said that the pharmacist was attending to and taking away their patients, and the pharmacist denied it, and all of a sudden they killed they alleged that the doctors killed the pharmacist, and now the pharmacist and their association hired some mercenaries to go and kill the doctors. So we now understood that actually this was a setup, and a well-conspired setup by the people who were talking to us, the Bill Gates organization, and they were using their mercenaries to attack doctors. So we really understood that the people who were talking to us were, even before they got a formal cooperative MOU from us to participate in their program, they were already going to the fields and collecting data, because the doctors didn't know, who in different localities didn't know exactly what this was all about. And then we now realize the plan that they were building up a GPS guided mapping, as they called it, the mapping of all the hospitals and the health professionals, and using the GPS in their phones to be able to track all the doctors and the medical personnel. They have their numbers. So this raised an alarm, and we were able to alert people, and all of a sudden, under the Buhari administration, things seem to have piped down. Now, immediately after Buhari's administration came to an end, they came up again with the so-called third phase of this survey. So this whole new program is what they are on now, to map and target and kill the doctors. This was exactly what they did for the farmers. Bill Gates donated, in quote, 14 million cell phones, which they call the electronic wallets. The idea was that they were going to give 2 billion naira loan or grant to farmers. What the plan, as far as the doctors are concerned, is that the doctors of Nigeria are the people who should, according to their plan, collect the eggs of women, which will now be used for the cloning procedure we call somatic cell nuclear transfer. And this is what I want to explain, what this is all about.
Okay.
Now, what the West is looking at is that they envisage a new human industry. The new human industry will make it possible to replace organ parts of sick people instead of continuously taking drugs for any medical condition. So what that means is that if you have a heart disease and you go to a doctor, the doctor will could take a sample from that your diseased heart, send it to the biotech companies, which are actually most of them in this category are owned by Bill Gates. They will now clone exactly that heart of that person. And how will they do this? They will take the cell the doctor sent them and remove the nuclear material. That's the nucleus that has all the genetic information. Now they will get the egg of a woman. Or eggs of women, because they will need several eggs for this. They will remove the nucleus on that egg and then transfer the nucleus from that disease heart into that egg. So that's what we call somatic cell nuclear transfer. So when they transfer it and then they keep it to in a culture to grow into a heart, replicating the exact heart of that diseased person. But now that heart will be brand new without disease. They can now send that heart back to the doctor and they will now implant it into the patient. And of course the person must have paid maybe $2 million or $1 million or whatever the cost involved. But this process of doing this is a manual process. That means making this transfer into the egg of a woman. So the eggs of women could be taken in hundreds just to do one procedure. So they will need about 100 million eggs, which will come from 10 million women. So when they looked at the map of the world and saw where on earth can we get up to 10 million women to donate egg?
Okay, so they find Africa as Nigeria as a resource base for that purpose.
Yes, when they looked at Nigeria, it looked very much promising for them. So Nigeria has the population over 250 million people. About that now.
Yeah, Prof. You see, this thing is very. Why is this thing? I want to find out. Is this effort by the Gates restricted to Nigeria, or are there other African countries or other parts of the world that are being affected by what they're doing?
The planned genocide is restricted to Nigeria. But one has to understand, why do they need to kill the doctors? They kill the farmers because they wanted to make sure they eliminate all the seed growers in the country. So when they eliminate the seed growers, the natural seeds will never be available again. And how they did that was very simple. What they did was that they just gave 14 million cell phones to all Nigerian farmers, so they could track those people who were being paid for seeds. So when other farmers go to them, they go to buy seeds, and then they know that this person was being paid for seeds, so he's the one selling the seeds. So they now use the GPS coordinates on these so-called electronic wallets, which are just cell phones, to target all of them and eliminate them. When you eliminate the natural seed growers, there will be no other alternative to the GMO, genetically modified organisms, foods and seeds. So they brought these seeds as improved seeds. The other farmers, they drove them into IDP camps and came to these IDP camps under the different NGOs and international agencies and presented these GMO seeds. So the farmers will now leave, they will temporarily hold their military activities in those areas, so the farmers will go and resettle. When they resettle, they start planting the GMO seeds. Once you plant the GMO seeds that first time, that first seed you get from that your maize, if you eat it, that will be the last you are going to eat. Because if you take the seed from that GMO corn and plant it, it will not grow. The gene that allows replication has been switched off. So you have to go back to the person who produced the initial seed. That is, in this case in Nigeria, it will be Monsanto. They will now use them to reproduce these seeds. So these seeds are what actually makes the agricultural produce to move on. So they are using this technique to eliminate all the natural seed growers. And then when the remaining farmers don't have any other place to get seeds than to go to them, to go to them for that. Now, where do the doctors come in? The doctors come in the fact that when they capture the food security, which they actually have done now, because most of the seed growers have been killed. Just to give you an example, between 2015 and 2018, 37,500 victims were killed by Boko Haram. These were farmers. Then of these 37,500, 32,000, that's 85% were Muslims. 5,500 were Christians. And in states like Zamfara, 60% of the victims were Hausa. 40% were Fulani. So it became clear that this has nothing to do with Islamic terrorism. It has to do with elimination of all the seed growers. Okay. Now they have eliminated the seed growers. Okay. Now they're moving into the second phase of their program. Now, when the farmers go to them, now we now depend exclusively on the GMOs.
Okay. So you mean we now depend on GMOs right now?
Exactly.
Okay.
Man, this is really, really crazy. This is crazy and scary. I mean, does it mean that if you're not going in for surgery, you have to get a family member to be there so that the person can monitor everything? I mean, this is scary. Sometimes I wonder if this Bill Gates man is a human. Honestly, the things that I've read and I've seen about him is abnormal. It's abnormal. This is scary. I remember there was a time, I think it was India, they banned him from their country because he was trying to do some funny things. I think he was sanctioned or something. Americans are really doing a lot of evil in Africa, and we are not even doing anything about it. Anyway, let's just watch the part 2.
So let me know what you think in the comments. Like and follow for more.